Ricky Starks is in AEW penitentiary, and the days on his contract are ticking down slower than the pebbles in an hourglass. If Ricochet is Twitter Ricky, then I guess that makes Ricky Starks Prison Ricky, a generational talent eager to return to the ring, but is currently being held down by the AEW machine. Or at least that's what the narrative is. Today, we're going to talk about the Free Ricky movement, how Starks has become an even bigger star despite his disappearance, and why Tony Twitterfingers is actually in the right for doing what he's done? Subscribe in Swahili and stick around a bit. Ricky Starks' star power slapped you in the face the second he graced the screen. Not just in AEW, but Ricky immediately shined during his first big TV shot on NWA Powerrr. In fact, Starks was barely settling in as NWA TV champion before he got a tryout with AEW against Cody Rhodes. Starks never looked back. He immediately became a featured star on the AEW roster. Since signing with AEW almost sight unseen, Starks has gotten cosigns from some of AEW's biggest stars. Not only is Starks besties with Cody Rhodes, he was handpicked to be on Team CM Punk back when Collision was Cousin Phil's show. Starks is also tight with Jade Cargill. Unfortunately, Cody, CM Punk, and Jade all abruptly left AEW for WWE, and all three are currently booked at or near the top of the card. The exodus coincides with AEW's current fall from grace, where they're struggling to sell tickets and ratings are softening. AEW is now planning to move to even smaller buildings. This is also why Ricky Starks is being held hostage, because Tony Khan is at least smart/petty enough to know what would happen if he let Prison Ricky out on parole and just gave him to the competition. Ricky Starks just wants to wrestle again. He's healthy, he's ready, he's willing, and he's able. But as long as he has a lifetime ticket on the American Nightmare bus, Tony is finna put Ricky Starks on ice until his contract expires, a process which could take months, if not another year. If you know anything about AEW and why it's struggled in recent years, Tony Khan and All Friends Wrestling always errs on the side of the incel. When it comes to currying favor with Tony Khan, the less grass you touch, the better. Khan's allies reside mostly at the bottom of the barrel in the pro wrestling landscape. You can tell by the trash-ass questions AEW media asks at those fake scrums.
And I just wanted to ask what it was like to come into a company and see so many black champions and what it meant to challenge right off the bat, essentially, a former black world champion.
Tony Tantrum terrorists like Bix and Meltzer are also mainstays in Khan's embarrassing friend group. Remember, this is Tony Twitterfingers we're talking about, so the more you tweet, the more he skeets. As a charismatic generational star, of course Ricky Starks was gonna run afoul with Tony Khan. Top stars being alienated by Khan is the most important chapter in the current downfall of AEW. Top stars souring on AEW has become such a real-life narrative, it became a TV story in AEW through MJF's bidding war of 2024. The second that story paid off with MJF re-signing with AEW, Max's career in Jacksonville is kind of plateaued. People who didn't know any better were excited by the idea of MJF jumping ship to Stamford. The bidding war of 2024 gave rise to the idea that one of pro wrestling's biggest stars in MJF could be WWE bound. Think about MJF versus Cody Rhodes again, or CM Punk, or Roman Reigns for the first time. He could form a super heel stable with Dirty Dom and maybe even become a Paul Heyman guy. What wrestling fan doesn't want to see that? So after AEW put that out in the universe, that's why when MJF re-signed with the uncool company, Max felt uncool by association. Ricky Starks has not been seen on AEW television in almost a year. Starks has reportedly turned down ideas pitched to him, and Tony seems to be convinced that Starks is WWE bound. It didn't help that Ricky was caught backstage at the Royal Rumble last year in support of Cody Rhodes.
I had one guy, he was just like, were you at the Rumble last night? I said, yeah, and what the f about it? What about it? He goes, just saying that's a bad look, you know? Tell me how that is a bad look. We got people on our own program talking about other people at the other company, but yet me having my security footage exposed is a bad look? Give me a break.
Last time we saw Prison Ricky, he lost a tag team tournament match back in March. Ricky Starks resurfaced at the Mall of America in New Jersey last month, coming down the escalator at a GCW show like a Creole Donald Trump. Still stuck in Daly's prison, Ricky cut a fiery promo as he somehow seemed to add more charisma since the last time we saw him.
I will be damned if I sit at home and I get frozen out. I'll be damned if I sit at home and let my career dwindle.
After GCW announced Starks for multiple shows, AEW promptly pulled Starks from his GCW bookings. AEW pulling Starks came after these comments from top GCW star Effie, and it was far from a coincidence.
Y'all have no buzz, no draw, and we've been riding the lightning on having to actually run a profitable company for the past few years to continue existing. We do not have as much backup. I'll put it this way. Our company, GCW can't run on a $40 million deficit and continue to run shows. But some of us have the privilege of being able to run at a $40 million deficit.
Brett doesn't own a football team?
Brett does not own a football team. Brett doesn't have a dad who pays him to stay away. I don't want this to be a personal thing.
I fully support Ricky Starks in the Free Ricky movement. I don't know where he's going to end up, but he's following the Cody Rhodes blueprint of making himself a bigger star outside of the machine. This is what led to Cody Rhodes becoming the top babyface in all of wrestling. And if Tony Khan is going to pull Ricky Starks from a GCW show over some negative comments from a GCW wrestler, I get it. Hell, I gained a little respect for Tony Khan for actually having a set. As a result of Tony pulling Ricky, Tony Khan is being compared to Vince McMahon in his predatory business practices. Good! That's what AEW needs. AEW is like the Democratic Party. They seemed obsessed with this idea of fair, which does not exist. Tell me, where did fairness and diplomacy get the Democrats in the dirty world of politics? 2 Trump terms and counting if that dictator has his way. Pro wrestling and politics are the same breed of cat. Dirty, grimy, power-hungry genres that reward selfishness and a lack of morals, period. The best promoters and politicians only follow the rules when it benefits them. I don't make those rules. Speaking strictly from a pro wrestling standpoint, being a petty carny is a big reason Vince McMahon is considered the greatest wrestling promoter of all time in the dirty business that is pro wrestling. If I'm gonna bury Tony Khan on this app for being too nice and having no authority, which I often do, then I can't criticize the little guy for making an example out of GCW. What Effie said was funny, and I agree with most of it, but I also agree with Tony Khan's right to punish GCW in response. 2 things can be true. If a top AEW star wanted to come on Pro Wrestling Bits for a sit-down interview with the king of black wrestling media, but then Tony Khan saw all the times I made fun of him and decided to pull said talent, I get it, man. I'm a petty male cancer, so I'd probably do the same thing if I were in Tony's position. I'm surprised they didn't cancel my interview with Saraya given all the shit I talk about AEW. You can't get mad at Tony Khan for pulling a contracted AEW star from GCW after Effie's anti-AEW remarks went viral. Tony Khan has been burnt time and again by seeing WWE book circles around him with his own former AEW talent. I completely understand Tony pulling Ricky from GCW. I also get Tony keeping Ricky off TV after Ricky palled around with the competition. It's petty, it's authoritarian, but that's what Tony Khan needs if he wants to be seen as a real boss who can make AEW competitive again. But don't cry for Prison Ricky. Ricky Starks is getting over. If he plays it right, he stands to gain the most from his purgatory. There's 3 ways to become a superstar in modern day wrestling. 1, with the backing of a national wrestling machine like Roman Reigns. 2, by becoming undeniable despite the machine's attempt to bury you like Daniel Bryan. Or 3, be like Cody Rhodes and do all of the above. A lot of AEW talent are off television for a variety of reasons. Mostly because Tony Khan has free agent ADHD and doesn't know how to book stars or storylines to where they stand out long term. But of all the AEW talent being shelved, Ricky Starks is one of the few who stands out. Starks has been able to go viral by popping out at indies and doing interviews explaining his absence. By getting pulled from GCW, the narrative of Ricky Starks being held down by the man has only gotten stronger. Suddenly, there's even more sympathy toward Ricky and against AEW. The same thing is happening with Rey Fenix, who was reportedly being held under contract with no plans of being used. AEW is actually filled with keep getting them checks guys right now. Miro's another one. But of all the talent getting paid to sit at home, Ricky Starks easily has the most sympathy among fans. Every time AEW wastes a TV segment on a half a celebrity like the Costco guys, Ricky Starks starts trending like, you're not booking Ricky Starks for this? If and when Ricky Starks returns to pro wrestling TV, especially if it's in WWE, he'll receive a pop for the ages. Tony Khan is trying to keep Ricky under wraps to cool him off. CM Punk, Jade Cargill, and Cody Rhodes all went to WWE within months of leaving AEW. Tony doesn't want to make that same mistake again, but the irony is, by holding Ricky Starks down, Tony risks making him an even bigger superstar if and when he's legally allowed to show up in WWE. It's like the only way you can become a bigger star while under contract with AEW is if fans think you're going to WWE when your AEW contract is up. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's basically the story of AEW in 2024. Of course, this being in the world of pro wrestling, we have to consider whether or not this is all a work. I considered it. It's not. At least it better not be. I doubt Tony Khan is trying to recreate the Eric Bischoff-Brian Pillman dynamic where the two secretly worked together to make it seem like Pillman was a legit loose cannon. I don't put that level of incompetence past Tony Khan, but if this Ricky Starks situation is all a work, that means AEW was willing to triple down on their perception problem. It means AEW went out of its way to create yet another storyline where a wrestler wants out of the company, thereby adding to the negative narrative that clouds the whole promotion in real life. And if it ends with Ricky re-signing with an ice-cold company like MJF did, and people find out it was all a work, all that sympathy for Prison Ricky would go out the window. Ricky Starks would be the new Jack Perry, a scapegoat in the court of public opinion for all of AEW's ongoing struggles. Ricky Starks is a Cody Rhodes disciple. Nobody in this industry is better at making themselves into a star on their own volition than Cody Rhodes. And if the Free Ricky movement was a work, it would be the opposite of creating a star. Have we seen the last of Ricky Starks in AEW? Do you agree with Tony Khan keeping Ricky under contract? Tell me in the comments.